You are born into a house where hunger is more constant than laughter. The year is marked not by seasons of joy, but by seasons of debt. When your father cannot pay the tax collector, he pawns what he has left, his daughter, you. The day you are taken is heavy with the stench of the marketplace, sweat, rotting fruit, incense that burns to mask the smell of fear. Traders shout over each other, hands rough as they lift your chin, check your teeth, pinch your arms for softness. You are 10, perhaps 11. The world shrinks to the cold fingers probing your face, the leering gaze of men who discuss your worth as though you are a chicken in a cage. Lucky you, they say. You're destined for the palace, not the brothel. As if one gilded cage is kinder than another. The palace gates are taller than any tree you've seen, iron teeth biting into the sky. Inside, marble floors chill your bare feet, each step echoing in endless halls of carved dragons and watchful gods. The air is thick with sandalwood smoke, disguising the rot of scheming hearts. You are stripped, bathed, and inspected again, skin, hair, purity. A matron with hands like steel presses between your legs, pronounces you untouched. Your fate is sealed. There is no mother's embrace here, no father's voice, only rows of other girls with shorn nails, lowered eyes, and the same silence stitched into their throats. The officials call you little flowers, but you are seeds buried in stone, expected to bloom or die unseen. You realize that survival here is not about beauty alone, but about silence, obedience, and learning the subtle art of disappearing when danger walks near. That night, you lie on a reed mat in a dormitory of whispers, the moonlight fractured through lattice windows like broken porcelain. You hear the distant clang of bronze gongs marking midnight, the faint laughter of drunk officials in courtyards you'll never enter. Your stomach twists with hunger and fear. Somewhere in the shadows, another girl sobs. You do not cry. Already you have begun to understand that tears are a language no one listens to in this place. The morning begins long before the sun dares to climb over the palace walls. A shrill bell jolts you awake, the sound as sharp as a blade against your bones. You rise, body still aching from the hard mat, and join the line of girls shuffling barefoot across the cold tiles. A eunuch, thin as a whip and twice as cruel, strikes his bamboo stick if you move too slowly. Discipline here is not taught, it is beaten into your skin until obedience becomes your second breath. Training is relentless. At dawn, your voice is tested. You chant poems older than your ancestors, words that taste of ink and dust, recited until your throat burns raw. By midday, your body is twisted into the graceful curves of court dances, your legs quivering as sweat soaks the silk practice robe clinging to your back. By night, your hands pluck at strings of the guqin, every mistake punished with knuckles wrapped so hard you swallow the cry. The lessons are endless. The tilt of your head must flatter the shape of your neck. The flick of your wrist must be both humble and enticing. You learn to walk so silently the floor barely sighs beneath you. Even laughter is rehearsed, measured, delicate, never too loud, never too real. Food is meager, bowls of thin porridge with pickled radish. The hunger keeps you sharp, they say. If you spill a drop, you are denied even that. Once, you see a girl dragged away for stumbling during a bow. She returns days later with a limp and eyes that no longer dare to meet the world. You understand then, the palace is not a school. It is a crucible. Rivalries sprout like weeds in a neglected garden. A compliment from an instructor to you means icy glares from the others. A eunuch's small kindness earns you whispers behind your back. In the silence of the dormitory, girls form fragile alliances, trading secrets for scraps of safety. Yet, betrayal is always close. One word spoken to the wrong ear, and your life could unravel before the morning bell. Still, you adapt. Your mind sharpens like a hidden dagger. You learn when to smile, when to lower your gaze, when to let others trip so the spotlight leaves you untouched. Survival becomes a performance, one you practice better than any song or dance, and always, above your head, hangs the shadow of rank. You know that concubines are not equal. They are arranged in a hierarchy as precise as the stars. A single misstep could condemn you to years as a nameless attendant, while one night of favor could elevate you to power. The thought is both intoxicating and terrifying. One evening, while the lanterns flicker and the scent of camellia oil hangs heavy, you catch sight of yourself in a bronze mirror. Your eyes, once wide with fear, now hold something harder, something sharper. You barely recognize the girl staring back, and perhaps that is the point. The night your life changes begins with the sudden pounding of drums. You are summoned. A eunuch's lantern casts your shadow, tall and trembling along the palace walls, as he leads you through corridors scented with plum blossoms and intrigue. Behind carved doors, the world opens into chambers soaked in golden light, silk curtains swaying like the breath of unseen spirits. Tonight, you will be seen, not as a nameless girl, but as a woman chosen. The emperor waits. His face is older than the portraits you've studied, carved by years of power and paranoia, but his eyes are sharp, searching. You bow so low, your forehead grazes the cool jade floor. You feel the silence pressing against your skin like invisible fingers. When he finally lifts your chin, his touch is surprisingly light, but you know that this feathered touch holds the weight of 1,000 lives. That night is perfumed with jasmine oil, your body trembling as ritual turns into duty. You do not dare to speak, but you learn quickly that silence itself is a language, obedient, suggestive, survivable. Lucky you, whispers say later. Some girls never see the emperor's chamber at all. Weeks pass, then months. You are summoned again, and again. Soon, whispers follow your steps. You are favored. Gifts arrive, embroidered robes, combs of jade, bowls of steaming delicacies that make the other women's mouths water with hunger and envy. When your belly begins to swell, the rivalry turns venomous. A child means security, power, perhaps even immortality through bloodline. But it also paints a target across your heart. One morning, your porridge tastes strange, too bitter. You spit it out in time, your hands shaking as you glance at the girl serving you. She smiles too quickly, her eyes too calm. The bowl is gone before you can prove anything. Poison is the most common lullaby here. It sings silently, leaves no witness. And so, you learn to guard yourself. You ally with a clever eunuch, slipping in bribes of silver pins for early warnings. You flatter an older concubine, whose influence shields you in exchange for your obedience. Every day is a balancing act, your life dangling from threads woven of lies and silk. Yet, in your quieter moments, when the lanterns are extinguished and you cradle your swelling belly, a different kind of ache blooms inside you. You remember the dirt paths of your childhood village, the sound of your mother's lullaby. You wonder if your child will ever know that kind of freedom, or if they too will inherit the prison of marble and gold. Still, you rise higher. The emperor calls for you at banquets. Your laughter, trained and honeyed, pleases him. Courtiers bow lower in your presence. For the first time, you taste what power feels like, a sweetness sharper than any fruit. But power in the palace is not a crown. It is a noose, woven tighter with every favor you receive. The child you carried does not survive past the second winter. Fever takes him before his eyes can even learn to recognize your face. You are granted 3 days of mourning. Though grief in the palace is never private, every sob feels watched, every tear measured against the sharp smiles of rivals who whisper that your star is dimming. The emperor visits you less often now. Newer faces, younger voices, fresher laughter have stolen his gaze. The silk gifts stop arriving. The eunuchs bow with less enthusiasm. You begin to see the invisible cracks in your palace walls, the way glory here is as fleeting as candlelight in a storm. And storms come. One concubine, once your ally, accuses you of poisoning her tea. Guards storm your chamber at night, overturning chests, smashing porcelain, sniffing at vials of medicine you keep for headaches. Though nothing damning is found, suspicion clings like smoke. From that day on, you feel eyes on you at every banquet, the weight of rumors heavier than any chain. Then comes the purge. A new empress rises, young and ambitious, her family powerful. To consolidate her throne, she must eliminate the old favorites. You are summoned to kneel before her court. The hall reeks of incense, sweet and suffocating, as accusations are recited in a voice smooth as silk: impropriety, arrogance, the whispered crime of forgetting your place. Your punishment is exile, not death, though perhaps that would be kinder. You are stripped of silks and jewels, sent to a remote palace garden meant for the forgotten. The walls are crumbling, the ponds overrun with algae, the silence thick enough to smother. Your body, weakened by years of confinement and childbirth, aches with every step. The gilded cage is smaller now, but still a cage. Sometimes eunuchs bring you fragments of news, another concubine hanged with her silk belt, another forced to drink wine laced with mercury, another sent to a Buddhist convent, her hair shaved, her beauty erased. Lucky you, they say. You only rot in obscurity. In those long hours alone, you remember the life before. The muddy streets, the bitter porridge, the laughter of children chasing each other barefoot. Freedom was never sweet. It was harsh, hungry, uncertain. And yet, compared to the velvet prison that became your graveyard, it glows in your memory like lost sunlight. Your hair begins to gray, your reflection in bronze mirrors showing a stranger, eyes sunken, cheeks hollow, lips thin from silence. You are not yet old, but the palace ages women faster than time itself. Here, beauty is both weapon and curse. Once dulled, you are discarded, as nameless as the stones beneath your feet. The years blur, each season identical to the last, marked only by the rustling of dead leaves in the overgrown garden. You walk its paths alone, leaning on a cane carved by a sympathetic servant, though you once glided across marble floors in embroidered slippers. The echoes of songs, dances, and laughter that once filled your nights have long faded, leaving only silence. And silence is heavier than chains. Your body weakens. The coughs come more often, tearing through your chest in the quiet of dawn. No physician attends you now. The court has newer favorites to tend, brighter flames to protect. You wrap yourself in thin robes against the chill, breathing the damp air that smells of moss and forgotten stone. Each breath feels borrowed, each day an extension of a sentence you did not choose. Sometimes, in the haze of fever, you see the faces of those you knew, the rival who smiled while plotting your ruin, the eunuch who whispered warnings in the dark, the emperor himself, eyes shadowed with suspicion, warmth already fading. You wonder if they remember you, or if your name has already been erased, your existence reduced to a single line in the vast court records. A concubine, once favored, later exiled. That is the fate of most women like you, your beauty devoured, your voice forgotten. On your final night, the moon hangs low and pale, its light washing over your chamber like milk spilled across stone. You think of your village, of dirt roads and rice fields shimmering in the sun. You think of the child you lost, whose name was never written. You think of the girl you once were, trembling as she entered the palace gates, not yet knowing that her life would become a play where others wrote every act. As the darkness gathers, you allow yourself one small smile. You survived longer than many. You played their game, endured their poisons, their betrayals, their silences. That, too, is a kind of victory. History will not remember you, but perhaps in this telling, someone does.